Leon. Oh, never mind. I don't think we're gonna have time. Oh, are we live, or are we gonna have an intro? Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, I think I have it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gail Morgan welcoming you to the Libertarian Counterpoint's Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. You've heard their point. Now listen to the counterpoint.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Today is June 16, 2021. We are 5 months into the Biden administration. Lots of crazy stuff is ongoing. Many states are lifting their COVID restrictions. We are getting back some of our liberties, not enough in my view. Let me introduce our panelists today. We have Tim in our upper left-hand corner. Tim Everett, our screaming eagle of freedom. He's a pilot in the state of California, not with the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have Jason McPhee, our champion of choice. He's an engineer with the state of California. I am Leon Brathwaite, your host. The last word in liberty. That's what Jason called me all the time. I don't know why. But you will notice we are doing things a little bit different today, that I'm hosting as opposed to Jason. Well, I wouldn't make my old corny joke I made previously, but we are rotating responsibilities, and we are trying our best to share the responsibility of hosting the show. Next month, we are going to have some scheduling issues that will require me to take over some responsibility of hosting the show. I'm sure at some point in time, Tim will also be hosting. Anyway, let's get right into our topics. Our first topic actually has to do with a woman by the name of Yeonmi Park. She's from North Korea. Yeonmi left North Korea, came out from North Korea, got into China, then eventually ended up in South Korea, and then into the United States. What she experienced in the United States left us stunned and quite disturbed. Some of the words that she were using, like North Korea was never this not. That may not be an exact quote, but it's close. She used words like insane, like groupthink. And this was her experience on the campus of an elite American university. I am sure by now you guys have seen the story. What do you guys think of Yeonmi Park and her story of her experience here in the United States?
Yeah, if I can go first. Very, very compelling. And she ended up in South Korea by walking across at least portions of the Gobi Desert. So at the age of 13. So she didn't. Leon, succinctly shortened the story up, but I'll just elaborate a little bit. 13-year-old girl going across the desert just to get freedom. This was after being sold into slavery and being freed from that as well with her mother. I with a resume like that, this young gal has this young birthing person, I should say.
Be politically correct and be careful.
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Has she identified herself as a birthing person? You got to check.
You got to check it out. You got to be careful now.
I seriously doubt it. I think she's probably smarter than that. It sounds like it. And especially making her way into that university.
That might have something to do with why she thinks this is so nuts, by the way.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. For sure. So, I mean, if I was a parent right now of a college-age child and faced, if I had, unlimited resources and they had a whole slew of universities to attend, and they could pick whichever one they want. Holy Toledo, would I have a lot to say to that kid about where to go and where not to go. And apparently these, so this young lady is seeing the types of repressive thought that she saw at and in North Korea, only worse in her view than there, because it's insanity, which it is. It's complete, utter insanity. And it's like I always say, progressivism is really regressive. It's just going back to tyranny. It's going back to despotism. And we're seeing it, here and now every day that if you look at the mainstream news or if you look at what's going on at these universities today. What do you think, Jason?
Well, let me share with you a little bit of an anecdote, too, that I had from seeing something on North Korea in the past. But I also wanted to just kind of zoom in on what I think her experience is, too, on why she thinks this is so crazy. I mean, she's coming out of a centrally planned country where they literally just try to control your thoughts. And then she comes to a top university here and winds up having them essentially trying to employ a lot of the tactics of trying to control your thoughts, with critical race theory and some of this woke language of the left, trying to tell you the words you can use to address people and, this kind of thing. And so I think that's kind of what, and in fact, let me give you a quote from her article too, from the article that she was interviewed in. She said, I expected that I was paying this fortune all this time and energy to learn how to think, but they're forcing you to think the way they want you to think. I realized, wow, this is insane. I thought America was different, but I saw so many similarities to what I saw in North Korea that I started worrying. Since the people here are just dying to give up, to give their rights and power to the government. That's what scares me the most. And there was a National Geographic documentary that came out about, might be 15, 20 years ago, back when Kim Il-jung was the dictator. And it was there was a journalist who went there along with a doctor as part of this group. And he was he was going there to do humanitarian surgery to repair people's vision, because this basic surgery that essentially existed everywhere else didn't exist there, because they're so far underwater that they couldn't, they couldn't even do basic stuff with their free government health care, right? That's that's what they give you there. So, she wound up, this journalist, she wound up, I think her name was Ling. She wound up going to look at a model family and interview them. And the most telling part of the story is that they were interviewing this model family. All the pictures on the walls, everything, not pictures of family, they were all pictures of the dear leader everywhere, and that's and they're pictures of the dear leader on a horse, pictures of the dear leader, looking up to the sky, just all kinds of ridiculous poses of Saint Kim, whatever the guy's name was. But she had the presence of mind. This was the most telling part of it. She said to the family, "Which one of these pictures do you like most?" And they suddenly kind of were a little bit alarmed, and they looked at each other, and then they said, "We like them all equally." That's a telling thing about the thought police in one of these places, because if you say that you like one thing over another, then suddenly, you're putting yourself and your family at risk. Why didn't you like that one? So this is the danger of these places, and this is kind of where the left leads us with some of this stuff. But anyways, I spoke too long.
No, keep going. I
was done.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I was done.
Oh. No, but she even used the words, what she experienced at this university was really a regression of civilization. She used those words, and this is somebody from North Korea, somebody who have seen regression, oppression of the worst kind. She even spoke about the fact that many people walking around campus, with their Nike shoes and their Gucci clothes and their iPhones and everything talking about how oppressed they are. And they don't know what oppression really is. And she have actually experienced this. I find this so disturbing, you would not believe.
I doubt they would have been able to make it across the Gobi. Those kids.
Yes, exactly. Yes, good point. Very good point. Very good point.
Yeah, I will tell you this, that it's not your physical shape. It's your mental conditioning that gets you across the Gobi, that gets you past slavery as a sex slave or whatever, or any kind of slave. It's mental toughness. It's not physical. It's what's inside your head. And, these kids today, which, brings up, I don't want to, the idea if we want limited government, is we've got, boy, do we have a lot of things to fight against to even make the point. And these people, I don't want to talk about other stuff. So I've said it before. But anyway, a very compelling story from this young lady. And she is a true American. I don't care where she comes from.
Exactly. She's
got the pioneer spirit. She's tough. And she's got the mental tenacity to make it in life. And hers is the kind of person that I want in this society, that I want to share, the fruits of our good labor with. And, and she's a true American, not these idiots on the campus that walk around with their Gucci shoes on.
Talk about how oppressed they are.
Yes. Oh yeah, I'm so oppressed. Yeah.
Well, I feel, like I kind of feel bad for her too, in the sense that she came here following this beacon of liberty, and the idea that she gets here and realizes that that
the beacon's a little dim.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, the beacon's getting a little dim. Yes. But by the way, too, for any of our listeners because I feel like we still haven't illustrated how awful it is in North Korea. I just feel like we haven't even scratched the surface. But just to sum it up real quick, the late great Christopher Hitchens once spoke of North Korea, and he said, some countries, I believe it was Christopher Hitchens who said this, but he said, some countries, or rather, the George Orwell's book 1984 was supposed to be a warning, whereas to North Korea it's a playbook. It's a blueprint.
Yes. I think it was Christopher Hitchens said yes. Yeah. Yes, indeed. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's I think we have touched on this quite a lot. Did you guys have anything to add before we run to the next topic?
No, let's roll.
Okay. The next topic is something that we have touched on before, but I think we did not give it justice, because I think there's quite a bit to be said about this issue. Anyway, Ayanna Pressley, who is a congresswoman from, I believe, Massachusetts, made the following statement. Poverty is not naturally occurring. It's a policy choice. That have brought about quite a lot of debate. I attached some of the debate about that, in preparation for this show. I attached it to the articles I sent out. And most people disagree. Because most people seem to believe that poverty actually is naturally occurring. So what do you guys think? Is this woman out of her mind, or is she onto something?
Well, I agree with her. Poverty is naturally occurring. Let's change the
No, she
word.
said it's not. It is not. No, she said it's not.
It's a policy choice.
Oh, it's a policy. Well,
so you disagree with her.
Yes,
it is a policy.
I disagree with your disagreement.
Yeah, disagree.
Or your agreement.
Well, okay, then let's just change the name from poverty to scarcity. Okay, so I would say that scarcity is the natural condition of mankind. Okay, we are, we came into the world as Neanderthals, and we didn't have a whole lot. Okay, so scarcity is the natural occurring condition of mankind, unless someone either before us or we ourselves do actions to change the scarcity into something less scarce. So I would say that poverty is naturally occurring. And yet at the same time, I would also say that poverty is also a policy choice. So if your policy is to make the government as big as possible and to crush everyone's freedom to hold on to what is theirs that they legally and morally worked for themselves, if you take that from them, that is a policy choice, you moron. And that is what leads to poverty. When you suck every single living dime out of every single living citizen, I guess dimes don't live, but you get my point. Then your policy is going to keep scarcity alive, and is not going to allow people to get rid of scarcity by producing more and more and more, because you're taking it away from them. Okay, so I know what she's thinking. Oh, but we're just going to take it away from those that have and give it to those that don't. That's how you destroy economies. And you need to, maybe pick up an economics book.
Jason.
Well, yeah, I think to the most part I agree with Tim on this, and not agree about the disagree about the agree, but just agree with what he just said. But for the most part, I think it's like Tim was saying. We start with scarcity, so that's the natural state, and scarcity is always ever present. It's just that we make choices that help to relieve some of that scarcity. But I think the natural response of people to scarcity is to work themselves to alleviate that scarcity, absent anything else, and to exchange with others. And we call that, sort of a free market is what we're doing. And that's what really helps to miraculously address scarcity. And I think the policy decisions of people like Ayanna Pressley to come in and think that she knows more and can, from the top, direct everybody to utopia is what actually the policy decision that leads us right back into that scarcity again, because essentially, that's what I think most people miss about free markets versus central planning, is that free markets take bottom-up information from every person who's a participant. All their choices, they get filtered through prices, and everybody is seeing those prices and making decisions independently. But in her world, the centrally planned world, it's smart people at the top making these decisions can make them much better than that. Well, the problem is, and anybody should be able to see this, is that you have a bottleneck. You have a few people trying to understand the wants and needs of all these different people, which I can't even imagine how I could identify Leon's wants and Tim's wants and every, even Ayanna Pressley's wants, other than that she wants to control us. But I can't even imagine all of the individual values and wants she has, but those all get reflected in price signals from the bottom up. But when you try to decide it from the top down, forget all of these, preferences. Everybody gets one flavor of ice cream instead of 31 flavors. You get one color of hat instead of a rainbow color of hats. You get all these different choices because the central planner has limited bandwidth to decide what to do and what choices to make. And so it's like a supercomputer that the free market is, with all that information, compared to somebody with maybe an abacus or sticks in the sand trying to figure it out from the top. And I think that truly is the analogy of what's going on there. And there's just no hope that the central planner can ever do as well as a free market in getting people the allocation of resources to best match their the wants, to balance the wants of everybody relative to their actual values and what they're willing to give up for those things too. So,
excellent synopsis. And then you end up with a family that can't decide which picture of the fearless leader they like the best.
I like them all equally.
I like them all equally. But I want to touch on, both of you guys raised this issue of scarcity, which I do believe scarcity is the natural condition of humankind, of our existence on planet Earth. But does scarcity mean poverty?
I think so, because the more widgets that are made, the cheaper they are, and the widgets have to be made by human action and human interaction as well. So, and by that I mean somebody's got to ship them, somebody's got to make the boxes that they go in, somebody's got to, unbox them at the store or at the person's home, and so on and so forth. So, you have to have human action. Otherwise, you're going to continue to have scarcity. Somebody's got to make the stuff. Somebody's got to make the cars and the washing machines and the refrigerators and the carpet and the lamp and the thermos and so on. Someone has to make them. And the more of the people that making them and the more that are made, the cheaper they are and the higher our standard of living goes. So you could call poverty as a low standard of living. So if you want a high standard of living, you have to have a lot of people make a lot of stuff.
Well, yes and no. Okay. Well, let's take that one step further. Just one, not two, just one. We have scarcity now, right now, as we speak,
yes.
Right now.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
But nobody will say.
I don't have a Ferrari.
Okay, and I don't either, Tim. I don't either. No Mercedes.
Maybe Ayanna can get us all Ferraris if we tell her that that's what we want.
Yes, I guess Ayanna Pressley could give us all. It's a policy choice. She could give us all.
Yeah, my garage has a scarcity of Ferraris in it. That's what I have.
Yeah, so that's mine. But the point I'm trying to make, though, we have scarcity now.
Yes.
And no one will say that, well, I live in Grover Beach and Jason live in Sacramento and you in San Diego, Tim. Mm-hmm. Nobody will say that scarcity that exists right now is causing poverty, would we, Jason?
Sorry. I think the issue is it's an issue of relative scarcity, right? I mean, like a person living in a cave had much more scarcity of the things they needed to survive than we have. I think the issue is relative scarcity, but yeah, certainly scarcity. That's just a condition of man. There's always going to be scarcity, and so we're always looking for substitutes and ways to address that scarcity. But in the end, it's always about trade-offs. You're never going to get, I think that's one of the problems with these guys pushing UBI is that, they imagine somehow we're going to get a post-scarcity world, but right. Even as you become more and more efficient at using certain resources, there's always going to be more things that people want, different things. And are we going to call somebody poor because they, 200 years ago, because they didn't have an iPhone? I wouldn't necessarily call that poor, but, because they didn't have an iPhone then. But so I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's always going to be a relative thing, I guess, the scarcity.
I guess we'll have to get a better definition of poverty and scarcity so that we could really definitively decide whether this is naturally occurring or not. I'm not convinced that poverty is our natural state, but I think you guys raised some very interesting points. But now we had Knucklehead Noise Patrol, and Jason, could you give us our song, please?
Okay. Let's see here.
All right. So we don't have a knucklehead per se, but we have a statement made to knuckleheads this week. And it comes in the form of Bill Maher. Bill is the host of Real Time on HBO, and he made a very interesting statement, I think, to the knuckleheads in our society. I'm talking about the real knuckleheads, not us. Okay, I'm talking about the real knuckleheads. And this
you mean the people who are his audience usually?
So this is Bill's statement to those woke idiots. Okay, he said, if you think America is more racist now than ever, more sexist than before women can vote, and more homophobic than when that certain sex act, I wouldn't say it on here, but that certain sex act were a felony, you have progressophobia. That's a nice word. I think we should use that sometimes. Progressophobia. And you should adjust your mask because it's covering your eyes. What do you guys think about Bill Maher's statement?
Okay, I'm going to start so Jason can finish up. You know, you could have utilized the word fellatio, which is
true.
You know, but that's okay. That's okay. But I was wondering how you were going to lead into this with Bill, because Bill has been hitting a number of issues out of the park lately. It's like,
yes.
Now somebody's really is woke here, and that is Bill Maher. You know, it's like, I mean, the guy, you know, I could disagree with him about most things or a few things or anything or some things, but I don't dispute the guy's bright thinking type person. Okay,
yes.
And I do think he's funny as well. So and maybe the two go hand in hand. But anyway, yes, listen to Bill, you progressives that are really regressive, because Bill just hit that out of the park. Jace, what do you think?
Well, usually it's funny, you know, he talks about the masks covering people's eyes, but you know, I can't help but think of all the times Bill Maher has been one of those people putting the masks over people's eyes.
Yes.
I mean, right now he seems to be
getting
getting a few of these ideas, like you're saying, out of the park recently. He did one on colleges and you know, sort of the college scam, you know, recently.
Yes, that's another one. That's another one he hit out.
So he's been, you know, it's funny. Bill Maher is an odd bird because he calls himself a libertarian, and he's clearly not a libertarian. But there's some areas where he's very much on point on liberty, like freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. Generally, he's pretty good on that. He doesn't like. He's very. His radar is very much up for people who are trying to restrict speech. So I definitely commend him for that. But he is also, you know, very much okay with the people taking away other people's economic liberty. You know, the idea of making choices for other people and spending other people's money, all that kind of stuff.
He's a central planner. There's no doubt about it.
Yes. So he's kind of on track on some things, but not on others. So well, anyways, let me give back to the host here.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, I mean, you know, you're right, you know, that Bill have been quite an odd bird, quite frankly, because we have even mocked him on the show, quite frankly, a couple of times, because he have said some idiotic things that only central planning thinkers would think. Anyway, I think we have reached the end of our show, and it's been wonderful, I think. So, what do I say?
Yeah.
Stay free. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is what will keep us free and prosperous. Thank you, and have a very nice day.
All right, guys.
Yeah, we're still live, Gail.
Still